guys, welcome to my channel. This is a fabulous Confessions of a Paper Addict Cutfiles design team layout, and I'm playing with what is left of my How to Kill a Kit with Style. See how much I can smash or kill, actually, because that's the point of How to Kill a Kit with Style, right? I have this adorable photo of my niece in the tub with her alfalfa hair, and it was like when she finally had enough hair to do that. And I had this 12 by 12. This is the last one I have left in my kit, and it was this whales and water, so I figured I would do that. I'm just gonna collage a bunch of stuff. We're just gonna do layers, but I have this amazing film strip 2 cut file. It was January release. I've cut it twice, actually. I'm gonna use it again later in a few on a layout, but I wanted to cut it and I wanted to play around with embossing. And just kind of messy embossing, like embossing the edges, embossing, just to kind of dress it up a little bit. So apparently we're going with turquoises and blues again. Rebecca and I were discussing how we apparently love to do blue for mixed media, but that's a lot of my kit this month, so at the same time I'm not surprised. So I'm gonna go grab all my embossing supplies and we're gonna play with this a little bit, and then we'll let it set up, and then we'll trim down our photo and start playing. But I figured it would be over here. We'll trim down the photo a little bit somewhere over here, and we will cover up little Lele just for the sake of the internet. All right, so there, we'll get all that stuff. Let me gather all my supplies and let's get started. So this was a fun layout to make. I really love like when you can just tuck a bunch of layers and it kind of makes your eye look at things and you just see like collage of layers of colors and things behind photos. I really like the way it turns out. You guys have to let me know what you think. If you like this, almost doesn't look very clean, but I really like the way it turned out. So what I am doing is I've grabbed a bunch of my embossing powders. I have embossing glazes, which is the relatively newer thing that Ranger does with all its distress colors, and I love them because they're more transparent. And I do have a Faded Jeans distress powder. I'm not as big of a fan as those because they keep a texture, and so it always makes you wonder, like, did it actually melt properly? Because I have had it flake off my pages, so they're not as much my favorite. But I have Faded Jeans for that. And then I have a Vivacious Violet and Prize Ribbon for my blues. I did get out Speckled Egg. I just didn't use it. I decided not to use it because I was liking the deeper colors. But I'm just smashing my embossing pad just kind of in random spots and then dipping it in. And I kind of mixed. I like mixing embossing powders. I like when it has almost like a marbled effect and it's all not one color. I don't know what it is about it, but I do. Unfortunately, though, then you either have to save all of that mixture to use elsewhere or it just goes in the garbage. This time I was able to use a decent amount of it, but a lot of it did go in the garbage. But I mean, embossing powder and stuff lasts forever, and are we ever going to get rid of it? I mean, maybe Sandy probably has used up an embossing powder. I watch her emboss all, or card makers, but it's going to take me forever to use these things up because I just don't do it as often. I wish I would do it more because I really like embossing. When I keep telling myself I'm going to make cards more, I could do more embossing. So I did that, and then I trimmed it down my photo, and now I'm just going to start taking some of the scraps and the leftovers and layering it up. I did have just that one 6x8 sheet of like the turquoise and white, and I had that laying down on my blue paper, and I really liked the way that looked. So that's going to be kind of the main solid layer behind the photo, but by the end of all the layering and the tucking of all the different pieces of paper, you end up not being able to tell that that is what it is because I just tucked so many things in there. But I matted the photo a few times on the blue print photo paper, and then another the back side of that, which was like a toy paper, but you can't tell, but it was like more of a white. And then I went on the rainbow stripe just to bring in some more color. And then I'm going to layer that on top of the film strip, which I think turned out cool. And then I'm going to layer that on top of that turquoise and white kind of geometric pattern. I was toying with the idea of doing the black and white stripe, but I think it was just too bold. I wanted just more of the subtle colors kind of all melting together. And the black and white stripe was just too boom in your face. So I opted to not use that, but I ended up tucking like this leftover, this black and white print in the corner, and this other multicolored like little tiny paint mark in the opposite corner. And then I'm going to tuck, I'm going to cut the pink up and tuck that in opposite corners, and then I'm going to do that with a gray scrap and tuck that in opposite sides. And I have this floral paper that ends up getting completely covered up on the right hand. Oh, not completely. A big chunk of it gets covered up on the right hand side. But anyway, so I'm just literally taking pieces and layering them behind my photo. Now I wanted to add a little bit of stamping. I thought about using that watercolor floral stamp by Simon Says, but I opted to do these bubbles instead. And something about bubbles and embossing, I don't know. I think every time I've used this stamp, I've embossed it almost. I'm trying to remember. I did another layout not too long ago. I feel like it might have been a year ago, let's be honest. And it was bubbles, and I'm pretty sure I embossed them. But I'm adhering those pink pieces now on the corners just to bring a pop of pink up. And then now that gray, just to kind of fill in the gaps, because there were some like random gaps between where the papers didn't reach. And now I'm going to take these bubbles on this stamp set. It's like a grunge stamp set. I really like, oh yeah, I have 3 labels left. And I'm like, you know what? I can tuck these and it'll work perfect. So I tucked them. I tucked the gray one down on the bottom right, the pink one up on the top left, because it felt like there was a little more heavy pink on the bottom. And then I tucked the turquoise one kind of right in the center, but on the right hand side. And then I'm just figuring out where the this giant cluster of papers is going to cover up. So where do I not need to stamp type thing? I'm just going to stamp a bunch of the bubbles. So there's 4. I take 3 of them on one stamp, and then I use like one of the medium sizes, and I stamp that a few times just to create my bubble clusters. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that embossing powder that I have left over and just pour it on there. So you get a little bit of differences in the colors, but not a ton. But it's kind of fun. It creates a fun color because it's a mixture. And then we're just going to emboss them. And I really like the way those turned out. And then what I will do is I really wanted to use more of these florals that I have from Prima that are all the purples and the violets, the purples, the blues, kind of a pink. The violet's more of like, I think it is technically probably the color lilac. But to me, sometimes it looks more pink at times. And I'm just gonna glue all this down. Oh yeah, I added a layer of tissue paper too. I had one like strip of white tissue paper. So I added it on the back and just kind of tore it on the top just to give a little bit of texture that just kind of peaks. This is one of those layouts that's like the more you look at it, the more you see all the things in it type thing. But like from when you just look at it, it just looks like, it's almost like impressionistic art. When you look at it from afar, you just see all the beautiful colors and layers, and they all create one look. But when you start to look at the details, you can pick out things, which I love. Sometimes those are really fun. But I grabbed those thickers and did Life is Good as my title. It was technically Life is Good here, but I figured I could use the here anywhere else, and I really just like the idea of doing Life is Good. It's our first alfalfa hair in the tub. Happy baby in the tub, always. This girl's so funny. These are like first year pictures, and she's a riot. She's gonna be 2 this year. Oh my gosh. She's a little monster, and we love her. She's my favorite, but don't tell the other cousins or nieces or my son. But she's my favorite, I think. And it's probably just because she's the youngest, so she's just funny. But her personality is oof. I feel like we're gonna be in trouble when she's older. Well, I guess I'm not gonna be in trouble. Her mom and dad are. I'm gonna be the cool aunt that she likes to hang out with. But anyway, back to what I'm doing. So I decided to tuck a bunch of the florals. I wanted to use up as much of these florals as I could A bunch of them on the upper right, kind of up where the title is, and then a bunch on the lower left. There was just kind of a weird gap too, and it worked out really good because then it's like flowers and then the bubbles kind of like come out of the flowers. And then I do add a little cluster on the upper left as well. Not as big, but just some. I end up saving, there was a bunch of flowers that to me, they just didn't look like they went. They looked a little different than all these bigger flowers and then these tiny, tiny blue ones. They almost looked more sketchy. And so I set those aside and kept those all separate. And I'll use those for something different. But to me, those all went together more. They had like sketchy centers instead of like this beautiful like watercolored center. So after with this How to Kill a Kit, I'm going to have tons of like embellishments left. Yeah, lots of embellishments left. So not as much paper, but I used way more like 6x8 paper than I thought I was gonna. I used actually a decent amount. So tucking flowers, and then I'm gonna grab some of the hearts from the LA Studio heart set, and then I'm gonna grab some white sequins from the little bit of sequins that are left from the Fifth and Monaco Pink Paisley collection. I'm just going to grab some of the white ones and tuck those in. And then I end up grabbing a couple Dottie About Flair that I got recently in my little Black Friday goodie grab bag, which thank you, Adam. It's amazing. Because there's this really pretty blue iridescent one. And since there's bubbles, I figured circles. And I'm just going to put one down on the bottom right, kind of below between those two labels. And then an arrow one that's the perfect like purpley, lilac-y blue color. Up on the left that points then to the photo technically and the title. And yeah, here's some close-ups. I really, really like the way this turned out. Thank you so much for watching, and we make sure you check out the Facebook group and the Etsy shop for all the new releases today. Thanks guys. Bye.